No, I wasn't wrong. Yes, it's still disappointing. Okay. Overused YouTube joke aside. Hi, welcome, I'm Flames. And no animated intro this time, because we have a lot of things to talk about. A couple of months ago, I made a video where I asked myself if it was a disappointing year for Transformers. I said yes, especially because it was the 40th anniversary. Because at the time, we had gotten pretty awful, big quotes here, reveal streams where nothing happened, and there were no news about Transformers Reactivate. Transformers 1 wasn't doing too hot on its first week. So, did anything improve in the past few months? Kinda, sorta, not really. Cause, yeah, we have some good news for next year. But that's next year, not this one. And as such, I'll only focus on 2024, which is also why I waited till the very last day to revisit my old opinions. So, let's get into it. First off, we have to talk about the 120 million elephant in the room, Transformers 1. The film was critically appraised and fans adored it. Hype Guy and the memes around the movie need no introduction. So it's safe to say that the film itself was not a disappointment. However, the box office was so bad that Hasbro recently pulled out of funding more movie projects, which basically means that if a sequel were to happen, it would be completely up to Paramount. Not only that, TF1 is basically non-existent in a lot of big award nominations, and just generally seems to be left in the dust. Most people blame this on the god-awful marketing team, and especially the first trailer that nobody liked. So, on the bright side, some actors and crew from the movie do feel hopeful about a sequel someday, but that remains to be seen. So, until I have the trailer right in front of my eyes, I'm not holding out too much hope. Overall, I stand by my point from last video. This was a disappointing outcome, no matter how you look at it. Then, we have the toys. Collectibles. Sorry, Reddit. This one's a bit tougher to have a verdict on, because they're a bit more subjective and varied. For example, if you like Series 86 figures, you probably feel really happy with some of what we got this year. Like Optimus, which after having owned him for a couple of weeks, I can safely say he's probably my favorite figure of the year. Truly great slop. But, if you're a Bayformers fan, you probably feel like you want to pull your hair off. Personally, I think that this year didn't have as much wow factor as other years. Besides standouts like Prime, BBM Max, 86B, Legacy G1 Prime, and Tidal Wave. Again, being subjective here. Sure, there were a couple of other neat Legacy figures too, but they all felt kinda bland, especially for what's essentially a send-off to the Legacy line as we move on to Age of Primes. The last Legacy wave being essentially some recolors that are going to shelf warm and be discounted at Ross in a couple of months just feels a little weak to me. You might disagree with me though, and that's perfectly fine, let me know in the comments. However, I think there's one thing we can all agree on, regarding toys at least. TF1 toys. Again, the elephant in the room. What a disappointment this was. When Rise of the Beast came out, everyone was eagerly waiting for the first wave to leak, and we had a pretty big lineup for when the movie came out. Yeah, a lot of them ended up being inaccurate, but the shelves at least let you know that a TF movie was coming out. With TF1, not a chance. In 2024, the only studio series to come out are Optimus and Megatron. Whether you like them or not is irrelevant and completely subjective, but the fact that these are the only two studio series figures for the movie and are rarely in stock or really hard to find, at least in retail, is just another failure of the marketing team. Having to wait around a year for the other two main characters and main villain of the movie and the studio series is insane. I don't even know if we're going to get side characters like Arachnid, similar to how the BBM line is still getting shit after all these years. The only saving grace is that Jolo Park came in clutch with amazing figures from the movie. Granted, they can't transform, which is a bit of a shame, but if you only care about the robots, this is probably the best way to go. And of course, we also have Luckies. And they've taken over the fan base by storm, and they're relatively cheap, so they can probably scratch that itch until Hasbro, or well, if they decide to make transformable figures for the movie. In the meantime, you can enjoy your one-step changers, Hello Figures, or Rock'em Sock'em Bots. So, disappointing? Yes. But not fully, and I'll talk about this later on. Now comes the part where we all just cry at the same time. Last time, and in other videos, I've talked about the state of Transformers in gaming. And to be fair, I am pretty pleased with how the collabs turned out this year. We had the amazing Overwatch skins, the Minecraft collab, and of course, Transformers Reactivate? Well, this one's just funny to even talk about at this point. It's been a year since TFR on Twitter said they'd have updates on the game, and personally, at this point, I don't even care anymore. Whether the game comes out or not is irrelevant to me at this point, because I have this feeling, completely personal of course, that if the game comes out, it's gonna suck. Don't ask me why, but I just feel it. There's something in the back of my head telling me that regardless of whether it comes out or not, like, it's just not very good. But it doesn't really matter, because I don't think it's coming out anyway. So you can have your hopium, copium, or whatever you want and believe it will come out. Or just follow the leaker Turf Wars on Twitter, I guess. The fact is, we had none of the promised updates this year, and thus, it's still a disappointment. Now, this chapter is a bit different than the rest, because there's some things that I did not cover in the first video, and I should probably cover them now. So first, let's talk animation. This one's kind of tricky to give a proper opinion on, because the main official culprit that's not a movie is Earthspark. It's no secret that the animation quality went down drastically. Granted, this could simply be because the animators aren't being exploited anymore, or just because they're not getting paid enough to care anymore. Regardless, I haven't actually watched this show, so take my opinion with a grain of salt, especially story-wise. All I can say is that animation-wise, it's definitely nowhere near as appealing as the very first clips that I saw of Season 1. Let me know what you think of this though, especially if you're a fan of the show. However, I did say this was the official disappointment. What about the unofficial? Everyone and their mother already talked about Galvatron's revenge in full detail, so instead, here's just Onslaught being an incel and me telling you that it's disappointing, especially if, God forbid, you actually expect something amazing after 10 years. Okay, then what's not disappointing, bitch? I get it, it sounds like I'm being very negative. 'Cause I am. But that doesn't mean there's nothing good, especially when you look ahead. I personally have not been more excited for a line as I am for Age of Primes, which overall looks really great. Next year already looks absolutely stacked and full of releases to satisfy every fan's needs. If you're anywhere near Twitter, you've no doubts in people fighting about Superion. Some people love him, others hate him, and that's great. That just means that there's a little bit of everything for everyone. Because not everyone's going to agree on which line should be the next one or which figure should be on it, so everyone gets something, at least. Like Skeleton Combiners, get Superion. Hate them, you can get Devastator. And of course, you also have the 13 Primes, which all seem to be very unique. Bayverse fan? Don't worry, finally something Bayverse gets into Studio Series again, with Night Optimus, Q, and technically Hatchet. So, with new leaks and releases being shown so often, I can at least say next year won't be as disappointing as this year, at least as far as figures go. As for movies, well, we have no idea. The G.I. Joe anti-of movie crossover thing is supposedly coming in 2025 or 2026. It's not coming 2025, there's no way. So I think 2026 is more likely. But until we have actual news or some form of marketing, I won't be commenting on this. So we'll just have to wait and see. Animation in general, Earth Spark is continuing for better or worse. And while I'm not a viewer, at least I hope that those that actually watch the show and are fans of it get something out of it. And I think there's plans for a new show too, so who knows how that'll go. Games. If you really want to hope that TFR will come out, go right ahead. I personally won't cheer until the game's actually out and it's actually good. So we'll see about that. And lastly, something I haven't mentioned at all until now. Comics. I regretted so much not talking about this in the OG video, but the Skybound comics are killing it. Even if you're like 90% of comic Twitter and don't actually read the comics, you've at the very least seen a dozen of panels that come out and become instant classics or just staples of the franchise. So unless something drastically changes, I think next year is going to be great for comics as well. So to round things up, I am a little disappointed with this year's Transformers stuff and how it turned out. But that doesn't mean I hated it or anything like that. I love the figures I got, the skins I bought, the movie I watched. So yeah, I mean, I just wish everything was a little better or got a little bit more love, you know? Because I want this franchise to succeed and keep getting better and improving. And I hope that Hasbro at least learned some lessons from the mistakes that they made this year, especially with the marketing. Because Lord knows that the very last thing I want for this franchise is for Elon to buy it, so hopefully they come to their senses and improve. So overall, just hope for the best next year, because I certainly am. And with all that said, if you made it this far, thank you for watching, Happy New Year, and let me know if you agree or disagree with the outlook I have on this topic. So, see you next time!